Is in focus next after Shareholders advisory firm InGovern has flagged multiple corporate governance concerns. InGovern says if the Z board appears to be defending the promoters rather than acting in the interest of shareholders. The advisory firm also pointed out that Puneet Goenka continues as CEO despite shareholders rejecting his reappointment. Let's discuss this further. We have Shriram Subramanian, founder and MD of InGovern. Hetal Dalal is president and COO at IiAS. Hetal and Mr. Subramanian, thanks very much for joining us. Mr. Subramanian, let me come to you. You've written about this. Tell us, the gist of and explain what you're saying here, and what would you like to happen in this situation? What are you recommending?
Yeah, we believe that Z is probably the one company where the promoter has only 3.99% shareholding, a very low skin in the game. A lot of funds have exited. There is a 60% retail shareholding. So it's amenable for activism because the promoter lacks a skin in it. These are historical issues. But what is more telling is that SEBI has recently again on Jan 16th issued a show cause notice to the company, which is the past issue only, but again issued a show cause notice to the promoter saying, despite having 500 crores as cash with them, which they had sort of earmarked for a preferential allotment, they are not willing to increase their shareholding from buying in the market. So all these are concerns. These are historical concerns, but the new thing is the letter they have written to shareholders just recently, 2 weeks ago, where they have talked about this inability to increase their shareholding despite having 500 crores.
Yeah. So my point is, what would you like to see here? See happen? I'm sure you're in touch with shareholders here as well. So what's the?
So we would like the shareholders to be more aggressive in terms of trying to demand a call for a EGM and try to demand for a change in the board itself, or some activist investor to come and that's what these the fund should be more activist, I would think, when trying to demand for a change. Either demand that the promoter increase their shareholding or demand for some other corporate action.
Hetal, what's your view on this?
Look, we looked at the letter that the company sent out, right? One, it's not signed by anyone. Two, I fail to understand what has prompted this entire letter. At the end of the day, they're arguing that several shareholders want the promoters to increase equity. But that belies the facts, right? Essentially, promoters have voted Puneet Goenka, shareholders have voted Puneet Goenka out of the managing director's seat, and he remains CEO, not managing director, and protected by the board effectively. Shareholders have also voted out the preferential warrants that the promoters wanted to, the company wanted to issue to promoters to increase their equity. So which investors are actually asking for promoters to increase equity? At this stage, I think what the company needs is that you have a strategic investor, somebody who basically takes control of this business. And you need a board overhaul. At the end of the day, the board seems to have failed their fiduciary responsibility of even listening to shareholders, given that the votes are very clearly cast and the message is very clear. So I think this creative license applies to content, but you can't go around saying investors want promoters to increase their shareholding. I'd really like to know which investors are asking this and what is their shareholding in the company.
So what happens here, Hetal, in your opinion? I'm just looking ahead.
So this is going to languish, right? Until you have a kind of a shareholder action, some kind of activism which destabilizes the board, this is going to languish. At best, look, you have a set of independent directors who've been appointed last year. So they're going to stick around for at least another 3 to 5 years. So this is going to languish unless you have a set of shareholders who hold more than 10% actually trying to take control and getting the board to be resuscitate the entire board composition and get a set of directors who are actually going to be independent. So otherwise, in my sense, without that, this will languish the way it is. The promoters are not going to put in money unless I suspect they can get to at least a 10% shareholding. And that current 3.99, even if they were creeping acquisition, they're not going to get to that 10%. They have 500 crores, which is available, but that's not sufficient to increase their equity. So at this stage, I think it will just languish, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Got that. You know, since I have you on Hetal, have you been tracking the Linde India case?
Yes.
What's the perspective there, and where is it at? I think it had finally reached the Supreme Court, right?
It's reached the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court hasn't issued a stay at this point in time. So therefore, I suspect they will have to come back to shareholders for an approval on the related party transactions.
Okay, and okay, and that is very difficult to get, I'm assuming, right?
We'll have to see. Shareholders may have changed. We don't know what the outcome will be, but let's just wait and see how that plays out.
Mr. Subramanian, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I would think that is a blatant misuse of or abuse of power by the company, where there is a SEBI ruling and that kind of boiled out. This will obviously in the Supreme Court be a marquee case, followed by all minority shareholders. The other one is Jindal Poly, where again there's a class action suit filed by minority shareholders. I think both these cases will sort of set the trend for how minority shareholders are handled by the companies in future.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Hetal, for coming in. Mr. Subramanian, appreciate your time here. And we'll, of course, track these and more cases with both of you over the next weeks and months. Well, I think